The courtroom battle between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni has erupted once again, and this time the storm is centered not on the main players themselves, but on the shocking criticism aimed at the legal team connected to Isabela Ferrer, the actress. Once known for portraying a younger Blake Lively, now drawn into the chaos of a Hollywood trial that refuses to slow down, legal experts across networks, panels, and commentary outlets are pointing to what they call hack lawyering by Ferrers' team, a phrase that has exploded across social media, sparking debates, headlines, and endless speculation in an industry where image is everything. The suggestion that one side is relying on sloppy tactics rather than solid evidence is devastating, and the ripple effects are already reaching every corner of this case. This is not just about strategy inside a courtroom. It is about how the entire world perceives truth, credibility, and authenticity. And right now, the spotlight is glaring down on Ferrer and, by extension, Blake Lively herself. Fans, observers, and insiders alike are asking what went wrong. How did a team expected to reinforce the strength of Lively's case instead become the weak link that analysts are dismantling in public? The spectacle is unlike anything Hollywood has seen in recent years, with trial updates going viral at the speed of light, and each misstep magnified 1,000 times over. Baldoni's team has seized the momentum, portraying themselves as calm, disciplined, and grounded in fact, while Lively's camp struggles with the fallout of being branded theatrical, defensive, and desperate as the dust begins to settle. One question looms over the entire narrative: can Blake Lively's side recover from this stunning label, or will hack lawyering become the phrase that defines the trial forever? Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni have once again found themselves at the center of an extraordinary legal drama that continues to captivate Hollywood insiders and audiences. Around the world, as updates pour in from the courtroom, the focus has now shifted to Isabela Ferrer, the actress who once portrayed a younger version of Blake in a past project, and who now, through her association with Lively's legal camp, has become a figure of scrutiny. In this sprawling case, the latest development surrounds criticism from prominent legal experts who have started to call out what they describe as hack lawyering tactics by Ferrers' team, a phrase that instantly sparked headlines. Across the entertainment industry, legal professionals and media commentators are dissecting every move as the case grows messier. Day by day, this saga, which began as a high-stakes defamation battle, has transformed into a war of credibility, reputation, and public perception. And it seems that the strategies employed by Ferrers' team are raising eyebrows not only among analysts, but also within circles of Hollywood power players. Observers note that the way Ferrers' lawyers have tried to align themselves with Blake Lively's narrative seems to have backfired in dramatic fashion. Rather than strengthening Lively's already embattled position, critics argue that these tactics have exposed inconsistencies and have only added fuel to Baldoni's side. Legal experts on panels and television commentary shows have not held back in their assessments, calling the approach clumsy, amateurish, and reflective of a desperate attempt to redirect the narrative. This type of public dismantling of strategy is rare in celebrity legal disputes, where silence and carefully crafted statements usually dominate. But here, the phrase hack lawyering has become the defining theme of the moment. The public has reacted strongly as well. Social media threads across platforms, from X to TikTok, are filled with users dissecting court transcripts, leaked filings, and televised commentary as hashtags like Blake Lively trial, Baldoni update, and hack lawyering trend. Simultaneously, many have pointed out that Ferrer, who has never before been at the center of such scrutiny, may be learning firsthand how unforgiving both the legal system and the court of public opinion can be. Some users even highlighted clips from past interviews where Ferrer spoke glowingly of Blake as a mentor, only to now face criticism for being entangled in her contentious legal battles. In court documents, legal experts noted that Ferrer's testimony appeared rehearsed in places, with vague responses and sudden pauses that looked more like performance than truth. This drew comparisons to high-profile Hollywood trials in the past, where credibility was chipped away not necessarily by evidence, but by the tone and delivery of witnesses. Lawyers for Baldoni seized on these moments, suggesting that Ferrer's statements were designed not to shed light on facts, but to protect a carefully guarded image. The reaction in the courtroom was immediate, with murmurs reported among the press, as Baldoni's side highlighted the weaknesses of her testimony. phrase hack lawyering came from a panel discussion aired on a major legal network where former judges and attorneys weighed in. One high-profile analyst argued that Ferrers' lawyers failed to prepare her properly, allowing her to appear underwhelming on the stand and inconsistent in her answers. Another suggested that they pushed strategies that were too focused on dramatics rather than precision. Legal observers often warn against trying to turn a courtroom into a theater. But here, that warning seems to have been ignored, and the fallout is now plain for everyone to see as this battle unfolds. Hollywood insiders are questioning the ripple effects for careers and reputations beyond the courtroom. Blake Lively, whose image has long been tied to elegance, family values, and carefully curated roles, is now facing headlines about courtroom missteps and accusations of manipulation. Justin Baldoni, once seen primarily as a creative force and advocate, is positioning himself as the grounded figure in contrast to the chaos surrounding Lively's side. The juxtaposition of calm versus disorder is playing out in real time, and experts say it could shape public narratives long after the verdict arrives. Fans have been especially vocal in their support or criticism of those involved, while Baldoni supporters praise his resilience and patience in the face of what they view as smear attempts. Others remain loyal to Lively, insisting that the scrutiny is unfair and that the term hack lawyering is being exaggerated to sensationalize the moment. Ferrer's involvement, however, has proven divisive, while some sympathize with a younger actress pulled into a messy feud. Others argue that stepping into such a volatile case requires accountability, especially when public opinion weighs so heavily. This new phase of the trial also highlights how quickly momentum can shift in high-profile legal disputes only weeks ago. Headlines focused on whether Baldoni would survive procedural challenges from Lively's lawyers and whether damaging evidence would ever surface. Now the spotlight is firmly on Lively's camp, and specifically the choices made by those like Ferrer who were supposed to reinforce her credibility. Instead, they have become weak points ripe for criticism. Legal commentators suggest that the hack lawyering narrative could stick for months, undermining confidence in Lively's team and emboldening Baldoni to push even harder. Some insiders believe Baldonis' team may even use the phrase directly in filings or arguments as a way to paint the opposition as unserious, unprepared, and ultimately unreliable. While courts are not supposed to be swayed by public opinion in reality, narratives like this often seep into proceedings, coloring the perceptions of judges, juries, and observers alike. For Ferrer personally, the fallout may be profound. Rising stars in Hollywood rarely recover quickly from public association with failure, especially when framed as a pawn in a larger legal mess. Casting directors, agents, and studios are known to shy away from figures associated with scandal, and this case is generating a storm of headlines that will likely be archived for years. Every interview appearance and role audition may now come with unspoken questions about her judgment and whether her involvement with Lively's legal strategy was a mistake. The broader cultural reaction is also worth noting. In an era where transparency and authenticity are prized, the idea that Ferrer's statements could have been coached or theatrically delivered undermines the sense of truth that audiences crave. Public appetite for celebrity trials often revolves around uncovering who is being authentic and who is hiding behind strategy. In this case, Baldonis' side is benefiting from being perceived as straightforward, while Lively's camp through Ferrer and others appears overly scripted and defensive. This dynamic sets the stage for even more intense courtroom showdowns ahead as lawyers regroup and public analysts sharpen their commentary. The question now is whether Lively and her allies can recover from this narrative stumble, or if the phrase hack lawyering will echo through the remainder of the case, serving as a reminder of the fragile balance between strategy and authenticity. The fallout from the hack lawyering criticism has now entered a new dimension as legal analysts dissect the inner workings of Ferrer's representation and the way they have attempted to shield Blake Lively from direct exposure during critical moments. In the proceedings, critics argue that Ferrer's team has acted less like seasoned attorneys and more like publicists trying to craft narratives for headlines, rather than focusing on the substantive details that matter in court. This strategy may play well on red carpets and in interviews, but inside a courtroom, every word is weighed, every hesitation is magnified, and every inconsistency becomes an opportunity for the opposition to strike. It is here where the approach of Ferrer's team has been most vulnerable, according to veteran attorneys appearing on legal talk shows. Observers point out that Baldonis' legal team has executed a disciplined strategy that contrasts sharply with the approach on the other side, while Ferrers' lawyers leaned on emotional appeals and dramatic flourishes. Baldonis' counsel zeroed in on facts, documents, and timelines. One expert said during an evening panel that lawyering is not about making the courtroom a stage. It is about guiding the record toward clarity and truth. When you try to perform, you forget the basics, and the basics are what decide outcomes. The bluntness of this assessment sent shockwaves across social media, with clips of the commentary spreading widely. Fans of both sides debated whether Ferrers' team had simply miscalculated or whether they were outmatched from the start. At the center of this discussion is Blake Lively herself, who has so far avoided the witness stand, but whose name is mentioned in nearly every argument. And cross-examination insiders reveal that her legal team had hoped that Ferrers' testimony would provide a humanizing narrative to soften the perception of Lively as calculated and guarded. Instead, Ferrer came across as stiff, overly coached, and inconsistent. This has raised the question of whether Lively will eventually have to appear directly, if only to salvage credibility. One legal scholar suggested that by trying to insulate Lively, they may have ironically increased the pressure for her to take the stand later in the process. The press coverage has been relentless, with major outlets devoting full segments to analyzing body language, tone, and courtroom dynamics. Experts brought in on morning talk shows described Ferrers' appearance as a case study in why preparation must be balanced with authenticity. Too much coaching can strip away believability, while too little preparation leaves witnesses vulnerable to traps. In this case, Ferrer looked rehearsed, and when she was pressed on specific details, she faltered just enough for Baldonis' lawyers to underline her weaknesses. That moment alone has now become a turning point in the wider narrative. Public reaction has also taken an interesting turn. While Lively still maintains a strong fan base that defends her at every turn, there is growing chatter about whether she made a mistake by involving Ferrer. So directly, users across online forums and fan groups point out that by tying her image to a younger actress who was already associated with her legacy, Lively may have inadvertently given critics the opportunity to frame the trial as a generational conflict, with Ferrer portrayed as a pawn caught between loyalty and self-preservation. Such framing is powerful in Hollywood, where symbolism often carries as much weight as substance, and once that storyline takes hold, it is difficult to shake. On the other hand, Baldoni has benefited from appearing measured, thoughtful, and quietly confident. He has not lashed out in public statements, nor has he allowed his team to lean into personal attacks. Instead, his side has stayed close to the facts, presenting themselves as the adults in the room. This approach resonates with both legal analysts and ordinary viewers, who are weary of theatrics. The contrast between calm precision and chaotic theatrics could not be clearer. And this is exactly why experts believe the hack lawyering criticism has stuck so firmly. It encapsulates the entire imbalance between the two strategies in a single sharp phrase. As commentators continue to weigh in, the financial stakes of this case are also being scrutinized. Hollywood insiders whisper about how costly the trial has already become, with millions spent on legal fees. Public relations consultants and damage control. Ferrers' role adds yet another layer of complexity, because if her credibility is damaged in the process, the investment in tying her testimony to Lively's defense may prove to be a waste. Some insiders even question whether Ferrer might eventually regret the entire involvement, since her career trajectory could suffer from being seen as part of a legal strategy that is widely ridiculed. This leads to larger conversations about Hollywood's unforgiving nature, where reputations can be damaged overnight, but recovery often takes years. Young actors who become entangled in high-profile disputes rarely escape unscathed, unless they can reinvent themselves quickly. The perception of Ferrer as inexperienced and mishandled by her lawyers may linger in industry circles. Casting directors who once saw her as a fresh new talent could now view her as a risky choice, simply because her name is attached to a courtroom controversy. Her association with Blake Lively, once a badge of honor, is now a complicated subject that could follow her for the foreseeable future. Legal experts are also discussing the role of judges in shaping how narratives like hack lawyering unfold. While the term itself is being Thrown around in media commentary, judges are careful to avoid appearing swayed by such labels. But there is no denying that repeated coverage in mainstream press outlets can set the tone of how cases are perceived. One legal analyst explained that, although judges rule based on law, they are human, and when every article they see describes one side as a mess, it can influence how seriously their filings are taken, or how much patience is given in procedural hearings. The ripple effects of perception are often underestimated, but in high-stakes, celebrity trials, they can matter as much as evidence. For Justin Baldoni, the momentum shift is invaluable after months of being portrayed as defensive and embattled. He is now standing on firmer ground. His lawyers can point to Ferrers' missteps as proof that Lively's camp is struggling, and his supporters can rally behind the idea that truth and patience are winning out. This has even inspired some legal bloggers to frame the case as a David and Goliath story, but with a twist where Baldoni, the creative underdog, is dismantling the machine, like apparatus surrounding Lively through steady persistence. The imagery is powerful and resonates deeply with audiences who love to root for resilience against overwhelming odds. Meanwhile, the entertainment media continues to amplify every detail of the hack lawyering narrative, in part because it represents a rare moment of vulnerability for Blake Lively, who has long managed her public image with meticulous precision. Rarely has she been associated with failure, miscalculation, or disarray. And so the current spectacle feels like a dramatic reversal for those who have followed her career closely. Outlets that once published glowing profiles now run pieces asking whether the trial has permanently altered her standing in Hollywood. The fact that the criticism is not just coming from gossip sources, but from respected legal experts makes the blow even more damaging. Fans of celebrity legal dramas are now fully invested, with countless podcasts, live streams, and fan pages dedicated to parsing every transcript and update hashtags trend daily, with competing sides vying to shape the narrative. But what remains clear is that the hack lawyering critique has given Baldonis supporters a powerful rallying cry and left Lively's team scrambling to redefine their approach. The stakes could not be higher, because the longer this label sticks, the harder it will be to reverse the perception that her side is floundering. As this chapter in the Blake Lively versus Justin Baldoni legal saga comes to a close, the question that now dominates Hollywood boardrooms, fan spaces, and legal commentary is what comes next. Because the phrase hack lawyering has already taken root in the cultural conversation, and reputations have been reshaped by its force. What began as a defamation battle has spiraled into a war of credibility, where perception carries as much weight as the evidence itself, and in this climate, every misstep becomes magnified. Ferrers' testimony, meant to protect and humanize, has instead cast doubt and criticism onto the very team it was meant to strengthen, leaving experts to debate whether Lively can recover the aura of control that once defined her image. For Baldoni, the shift in momentum could not be clearer. His side now projects confidence, precision, and calm, while the opposition grapples with narratives of chaos and disarray. Supporters who once feared the case would bury him now rally around his resilience and patience. But even as momentum favors him, the unpredictable nature of celebrity trials means the story is far from finished. Judges' rulings, new evidence, and shifting alliances could change the trajectory overnight, and both camps remain locked in a battle not only for legal victory, but for the legacy of how they are remembered. The world is watching as every update is dissected in real time. And whether you are a devoted fan, a casual observer, or a Hollywood insider, the spectacle offers a rare glimpse into how fame, strategy, and law collide in the harshest of spotlights. The trial has become more than a case. It is now a test of image, endurance, and truth, and the outcome will reverberate long after the gavel falls.